Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Ancient Gear Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post-Duel Overload. Wanted to do an update to the Ancient Gear deck. Big thanks to my friend Anthony for letting me borrow his Ancient Gears for the deck profile once again. It's always a fun update to the Ancient Gear deck. The main focus of the deck is to fusion summon out your big ultimate Ancient Gear monsters that just hit for some pretty high attack points and then can deal piercing damage, unaffected by spell and traps, you name it. And with the new Link monster, Ancient Gear Ballista, I believe is the name of the monster that we got for the deck, it just adds on to the consistency for destroying your own spell and traps, reducing your opponent's monster's attack, then being able to special summon off of those Ancient Gear spells for bigger Ancient Gear monsters to swing into the opponent's monster that you reduced attack with the new Ancient Gear Link monsters. Let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Ancient Gear monsters, I'm running 3 Ancient Gear Golem, your go-to boss monster in the deck. It cannot be special summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or traps until the end of damage step. So you can pretty much just swing for some pretty heavy damage against your opponent's monsters using this card, but it's also needed for a good majority of the different fusion monsters you make in the deck, being a requirement for at least your ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, and then just needing Ancient Gear monsters for all the other ones, but still being a pretty good monster to run overall in the deck for other ways you can special summoning it out, ignoring its summoning condition. I also like to run the 1 Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound. It cannot be special summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, you inflict piercing battle damage and up to twice per turn. When this attacking card destroys a monster by battle, you can discard 1 machine monster. This card can attack again in a row. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand, and if you do, add another Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand as well. So the attack with this one definitely just comes in handy for the multiple attacks you can do with Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound. I just like to run it as a 1-of, though, for that additional option along with our normal Ancient Gear Golem in the deck. But the true boss monster of the deck, and those of you that play Duel Links may also be familiar with how busted this card can be, and that is Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. If this card that was tribute summoned by tributing an Ancient Gear monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. If this card was tributed by tributing a Golem monster, you can make a second attack during each battle phase. If this card attacks, your opponent's spell, traps, and monster effects cannot be activated until the end of damage step. At the end of damage step, if this card attacks, destroy a spell or trap card on the field. So your opponent can't activate anything when it attacks. Also potentially having the piercing and double attack. Also, when this card attacks and you destroy a spell or trap, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to destroy one of your opponents. You can even destroy your own Ancient Gear spells and then get the special summons off of those cards to summon additional Ancient Gear Golem monsters to the field, which is just that much more insane. Running 3 Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon for that overall pressure you can do in the deck. And then to help along with our fusion plays, I am running 3 Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. If this card is normal summon, inflict 600 damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or traps until the end of damage step. And once per turn, you can fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. So this is your go-to card for your fusion summons, being able to rely on for all the different fusion plays, and also being able to burn your opponent for that damage can definitely does help if you're, winding down on time and you just need to deal a little more damage to your opponent. That could be the make or break for any games, especially with the games that can go on for quite a while as well. But being your go-to fusion card definitely does come in handy for the fact that you can rely on it for all your fusion plays and set the cards up in your graveyard for plays later on also. And for more of the search plays, I run 3 Ancient Gear Wyvern. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Ancient Gear card from your deck to the hand, except Ancient Gear Wyvern. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of this turn. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Wyvern once per turn, and if this card attacks, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects until end of damage step. So it's mostly there for the search. The set effect isn't really limiting you at all, since you don't really set cards with this deck. You mostly try to get out your big go-to Ancient Gear boss monsters, and then rely on them for your plays. But Wyvern Search can grab you a good amount of any cards you may want to run in the deck, so you definitely need 3 of it. It's your go-to normal along with Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, depending on what you want to do for that play during the turn. And I also run 3 Ancient Gear Frame. With this one, you can discard 1 card to add 1 Ancient Gear Golem or 1 spell trap that specifically lists the card Ancient Gear Golem in its card text from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Frame once per turn, and if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell or traps until the end of damage step. And if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon up to 3 Ancient Gear Golem and or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound from your hand, ignoring the summoning conditions. So being able to be the fastest way to get out your Ancient Gear Golem and your Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound onto the field to have those big pressure plays. Definitely good to rely on this, but also just having the additional search and graveyard setup with Ancient Gear Frame really helps for the fusion plays you want to conduct with the deck as well. And to finish off some of the Ancient Gear monsters, I also run 2 Ancient Gear Box. If this card is added from the deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add 1 Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, except for Ancient Gear Box. You can only use the effect of Ancient Gear Box once per turn, so you have the search for Frame with this card, which is definitely useful when you add it off of cards like Ancient Gear Wyvern to go for the search. It's most of the time your search for the card anyway, because then you'll have the discard power off of your Ancient Gear Frame for the search. So you basically want to be able to normal summon out your Ancient Gear Wyvern, search off Ancient Gear Box, and then search out your Ancient Gear Frame, which will give you the discard for one of your other searches with the deck. And then for 2 more monsters, I like to run the 2 Cyber Dragon. I know the extra monster zone won't be that big of a problem after Master Rule 5, but we'll still have Mega Fleet and Chimera Tech Over Dragon to rely on with this deck for fusion plays, and there's still going to be people that Link Summon or Pendulum Summon, so being able to use that extra monster zone spot with Mega Fleet and the lone Cyber Dragon you have on the field, and just being an easy special summon onto the field for that additional monster definitely does help for your overall plays and additional fusion plays you can do with the deck. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I'm running 3 Gear Town, being a viable search for your Ancient Gear Ballista. You definitely want to run 3 of this. Both players contribute 1 Ancient Gear monsters with 1 less tribute than required, and when it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So most of the time, your go-to card for the grab will be Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, just being easy special summon onto the field that can attack and destroy other spell and traps. Or, you know, if you destroy this card with Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, you'll be able to special summon another Ancient Gear monster onto the field for even more attacks using this card. And then also you can destroy it with your Ancient Gear Ballista along with searching it, being able to reduce your opponent's attack points to 0 and then giving you a good piercing attack with one of your monsters. Plus, as always, the 1 Terraforming just to help with the overall search of your field spell in the deck to rely on. Definitely is a big help for sure when going for your fusion plays. And I also run 3 Ancient Gear Catapult. Well, you control no monsters. Target 1 face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 Ancient Gear token onto the field, and you can only use 1 Ancient Gear Catapult effect per turn, and only once that turn. So the destruction effect helps to just destroy some of your needed cards, including Gear Town, Ancient Gear Fortress, you name it, to get those additional special summons and the additional token as well. It's also a graveyard effect, which we also run Foolish Burial Goods for, to set it up in the graveyard faster if need be, for just that also additional token play, since Ancient Gear Ballista only requires 2 Earth Machine type monsters, not limiting you to the tokens either. And I also run 2 Ancient Gear Fortress. It helps your opponent targeting your Ancient Gear monsters during the turn. Your opponent, Ancient Gear monsters were normal or special summoned. And if this card is destroyed, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Ancient Gear monsters, but it doesn't really limit you at all. But being able to protect your Ancient Gear monsters with this card is why I really like to run it in the deck. But the fact that it gives you that additional special summon option along with Gear Town for the destruction goes all together with the Link monster and your other Ancient Gear cards that can destroy spell or traps on the field. And I also run 2 Ancient Gear Fusion. We did get an announcement for this card's reprint, so definitely going to be a lot easier for people to get access to this card for the deck. You fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, you control as fusion material. You can also use monsters from your deck as material. So that's another reason why I like to have the additional Ultimate Pound in the deck, just giving you that deck fusion material option along with the ones from your hand and field as well. With this this card, and also helps to set up for some of our other fusion play cards, which is Overload Fusion. You fusion summon one Dark Machine type monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard. You can go for the Cyber Dragon play with this one, but also do not forget that Chaos Ancient Gear Giant is a dark monster as well, giving you the fusion option with Overload Fusion after you set up a lot of your different Ancient Gear monsters in the graveyard as well. Plus, I also run the one Monster Reborn just to help special summon more options and resources back onto the field to use. And I also run 2 Power Bond and 1 Limiter Removal. I was debating the ratio of these along with the Overload Fusion I run, but Power Bond, just for the double power you can get with your monsters, sure, they'll be destroyed during the end phase and you'll take the damage, but if you're going for your finisher play with your Ancient Gear Ballista, you can go for the kill right then and there, along if you combo this with the Limiter Removal on the field also. You won't take the damage with Limiter Removal, that's why I might suggest running 2 Limiter Removal and 1 Power Bond, but if you know the play you're going for and you can do it properly against your opponent, you can finish them off in 1 turn also. And I run the 2 Foolish Burial Goods. This is for the setup of Ancient Gear Catapult in the graveyard for the quick token play you can do with the deck. And with back row, when you're attacking, it's not that fearsome for your opponent to activate spell or traps, but some of the counter traps I do like to take care of. So to finish off the main deck, it's just the 2 Twin Twister. Like I said, it helps to clear that back row out if your opponent would use Solemn Strike or something like that to negate the summon of your Ancient Gear monster and then ruin the play you were going to go for. So Twin Twister can definitely help to take care of that back row problem there. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 2 Ancient Gear Howitzer. It's your first go-to card for your fusion plays, needing just 2 Ancient Gear monsters. It's unaffected by other card effects, and during your main phase, you can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Howitzer once per turn, and if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring these summoning conditions. Ultimate Pound, your Reactor Dragon, Ancient Gear Golem, you name it. You have plenty of special summons with this, and the burn damage along with your Hound definitely does help for burning your opponent down, especially if you can't do battle damage because time's winding down, depending on the tournament you're going to also. And I also run 2 Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, just the true boss monster to go for in the deck. Must be fusion summoned if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage, and if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or traps until the end of damage step. And if this card is destroyed, you can target 1 Ancient Gear Golem in your graveyard and special summon it, ignoring the summoning conditions. So you have just another special summon off of this, and Megaton helps to special summon this out onto the field. So you have consistent special summoning going on to the field, but with this card being 4,400 attack, if you were to use Limiter Removal or fusion summon this out with Power Bond and swing into your opponent's monster, that's the go-to kill right there for all of your opponent's life points. And I also run 2 Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. It's an Overload Fusion target, just needing 4 Ancient Gear monsters, so if you set them up in your graveyard plenty enough, you can summon this card out pretty easily. And also, it cannot be special summoned by other ways. It's unaffected by spell or trap effects. Your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. And if this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. This could also be the damage you go for with Ballista, if you can swing it to enough monsters, or if you even just need to set one of them to 0 attack with your Ancient Gear Ballista as well. And I also run 2 Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. I wanted to focus mostly on the fusion plays for this with Master Rule 5, but just having this option for the fusion plays and also allowing you for the special summon of your Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your deck, ignoring the summoning conditions. It's just another added special summon that you can go from Megaton to Ultimate Gear to Ancient Gear Golem, consistently getting monsters out onto the field to use. And then for the Cyber Dragon plays, the 1 Mega Fleet and the 1 Over Dragon. Like I said, when they are in the extra monster zone, just being able to summon this card out with a Cyber Dragon on the field is a definite boost for sure. And for the Link monsters, I have 1 Ancient Gear Ballista in the deck so far. I definitely would want to run, 2 of this card. If I were, I'd probably take out one of the next options. But with it, if this card is Link Summon, you can add 1 Ancient Gear monster or 1 Gear Town from your deck to your hand, giving you plenty of search and just needing 2 Earth Machine monsters to make it. And also, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and 1 spell or trap you control, destroy the card you control, and then change the opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0 until end of turn. You can only use each effect of Ballista once per turn, but that 0 attack, and then when you're attacking with your Ancient Gear monsters, is the damage you could do to finish off your opponent and then go for the game right there. We'll go over the play at the end of the video with one of the combo plays I was speaking of. But also, for the rest of the extra deck, 1 Mrs. Radiant, just the power boost use for all your Earth Ancient Gear monsters. Also 1 Gear Gigan X, 1 number 39 Utopia, and 1 Utopia the Lightning to finish off the Exceed monsters. Also, if you wanted to run a second Ballista, you can take out the Gear Gigan X as an additional spot for running 2 of this. Definitely do recommend it for that. And then for the go-to combo play, like I said, you can use either of the Ancient Gear fusion monsters you run in the deck for the big damage, also relying on just one of your go-to fusion cards if you have the Overload Fusion, and also your limiter removal. That can be your play with your Chaos Ancient Gear, or relying on the Power Bond with your fusion monster can be just as good as well. But if you go for the Overload Fusion combo, basically going for the setup for the Link monster play using your monsters on the field, you'll want to link into the Ancient Gear Ballista using 2 of the monsters, and also be sure to set up the rest of the monsters in the graveyard to use as well by using either the search for discarding your Ancient Gear frame. So basically you can search off of your Ancient Gear Wyvern to discard the frame, searching off the Ancient Gear Fusion to set up even more Ancient Gear monsters in your graveyard with that fusion play. So you'll summon out the Wyvern, discard the frame, use Ancient Gear Fusion, giving you more monsters in the graveyard to use for whichever fusion play you may go for. But with that fusion play, even if you just send the 2 monsters for, let's say, Ancient Gear Howitzer, you'll have the Ancient Gear Wyvern on your field along with the Ancient Gear Howitzer, giving you the 2 monsters you need for your fusion summon into Ancient Gear Ballista. And then with plenty of different Ancient Gear monsters in your graveyard to use, you can use the Overload Fusion to fusion summon out your Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, and having the additional spell or trap, whether it be Gear Town or one of the other ones on the field. Destroy one of your spell and traps with Gear Town, giving you the additional special summon of an Ancient Gear monster onto the field, and then also being able to lower your opponent's monster down to 0 and swing for game with the additional monster damage you can do to your opponent's monster after it hits 0. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Definitely got plenty more decks coming out from Duel Overload with all the different Link monsters we receive, so look forward to it. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.